Yeah, yeah. We just chillin' and vibing. Good conversations with good people. Oh. Good conversations with good people. Yeah.
Yo, 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 this your boy Larry, and I'm chilling and vibing with Evan Hurst. What's up, man?
What's up? I'm I'm chilling and vibing too. I'm here in Thailand and having a good old time.
That's what's up, man. Hey, I appreciate you for taking time out on your vacation to come chill and vibe, man.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So how you been, man?
I'm good. I'm good. I just wrapped up a big show, Peacemaker season 2, back before Thanksgiving. I had a couple weeks off before we headed out here. This is kind of my chunk of time. Rarely is there productions going on over the holidays, and so I try and use this time to get out of Dodge, and no better place to get out of Dodge too than Thailand. Ugh, I love it out here.
Oh yeah. So where you from?
I'm originally from the Northeast. I grew up in Delaware actually, but as soon as I turned 18, I needed a little bit more, and so I bounced around. I spent some time in Florida, spent some time in Colorado, but ultimately I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee for a long time. That's where I started my film career, working on country music videos, CMT shows, all kinds of stuff like that. And then eventually I ended up down around Atlanta, Georgia. There's a big movie scene down there, and so uh, constantly growing, constantly moving forward, and I knew that was the next step of just like constant work, big shows, a lot of just like fun stuff to do, and so packed everyone up, headed down there, and uh, the rest is history.
So what made you want to get into film?
Honestly, growing up never crossed my mind. Going to school, going to college. I started, did 2 years history and education, and then eventually got talking to my brother, and I had been itching to try and like figure out how I could buy property. This was just after 2008, like the market crash and stuff. And I was early 20s. My brother was a little older, and he just happened to be in Nashville, and was like, all right. So I went out there to kind of check it out, and he ended up last minute. They had a music video, a Reese Palmer music video down in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was like, man, that sounds super cool. I was like, I've got nothing else to do. I was just gonna chill with you. So like, can I come down? Like, I'll work for free. I'll carry shit. I don't care. Like, just let me come down there and have fun. And sure enough, they brought me down. I worked for free for 2 days. The producer squeezed $100 out of the budget for me, which kind of looking back on it is hilarious because it was like back to back 14-hour days. The end of the second day, we drove back from Memphis in one of the production vans, and I made $100 out of it. And I was like, come on, when's the next one? And so from there, I just kind of used that when I finally moved. The producer, I contacted him. I was a production assistant on that, which is kind of the entry level position on productions. And so other production assistants, the producers, I just kind of like let everyone know I'm back. And it was one music video here, one music video there, and before I knew it, I was just more and more and more. And I loved it. I didn't have to finish school, honestly. So that was cool. And it's just like one thing after another. I PA'd for about a year and a half while working at a bar downtown, and then eventually turned that into. I figured out what direction in film I wanted to go by then. Ended up being camera support and lighting, kind of grip and electric world. I like fidgeting with stuff. I always grew up playing with Legos and kind of that aspect of it. So the grip side of things, of like rigging and figuring out problems, everyone comes to us and they're like, "Hey, how do we get this here? How do we like make this say?" So we mess with a lot of stuff and kind of tinker sometimes, and I always appreciated that. So after that year and a half, I was like, I need to move forward a little more and kind of pick that. And so I made the decision one day and just hit up everyone I knew and was like, I want to do grip electric, grip electric, grip electric. And sure enough, one guy hired me for a video, next guy hired me for a video. turned that into full-time work. Eventually was able to quit my job at the bar, and 16 years later, I'm sitting here. 16 years later, I got to work on a Superman movie and like major new DC stuff, and I'm chilling and vibing here in Thailand, like just like living my best life as best as I know how to do it anyway. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all happened.
That's what's up, man. So, what was that feeling like when you got that call about Superman?
Well, honestly, like, I've done enough in the business, like it wasn't really anything different. We had some downtime in between shows. I was just excited to have work. I thought it was, it was cool that it was Superman, but uh, every show's different, and not all of them are bangers. That even though Superman was like, all right, this could be cool. I got called for Superman, but it wasn't until I was out there and I hadn't seen James Gunn work. I hadn't seen anything really from it, and so it was like to watch those aspects of it and to be present. It was like just me doing my day-to-day job in lighting and camera support, like moving stuff around, carrying heavy stuff. But when I was there, it's just like, but this is fucking Superman. Seeing Corn Sweat, you never want to talk about it. Like, it was just like, it had, I don't know, it just kind of had a little bit of extra vibe to it because it had that nostalgic element. Like, even though I didn't know what was going on in the story, I didn't know any of that stuff, but it was like, that was kind of the first superhero thing I'd done too. So it wasn't until I got on set, and it wasn't even until like a couple days into being on set that I was like, I was having things give me goosebumps and just like being like, this is cool, and like letting that kind of kid in me come out. But yeah, when I first got the call, I was like, cool, all right, I got 2 weeks worth of work. And that was it. But I'm really happy, even those 2 weeks. It's like now the trailer's out, I'm real stoked to see it. I would have been stoked to see it anyway. I like the Henry Cavill, the Zack Snyder, that's all that stuff, but I'm excited. I grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman, and so I like the idea of them kind of taking it back to that origin. And after working on it, I of course followed James Gunn on social media and Facebook prompts anything DC and James Gunn related now, and so I constantly see articles and stuff, and hearing him the excitement that he had in his posts about the Christopher Reeve story, I could tell how much he kind of appreciated that take on Superman and what Christopher Reeves did to the character of Superman, both Superman and Clark Kent, and the little nuances of what he added to that character. And I think it feels, at least from watching the trailer, that's the direction that he's going with it. And for me, I'm here for it. Like, I don't get caught up too much in like this has to be a certain way because I like that. I like the Dark Knight Rises or the whole Dark Knight series. Like, those were great Batman. They were dark, they were gritty, but like Robert Pattinson, like the new Matt Reeves ones, that one was super dope in its own right. And if it wasn't for that one, then we wouldn't have never gotten the Penguin series, which was really fucking dope too. And so it's
Yeah,
like, without being able to kind of let go of the past in a sense, you never get what's coming out in the future. And so even if it's not perfect, I think it'll be good. I think it'll have its elements. Hell, Suicide Squad, the first one, when it came out, it was everyone shit on that. Like, and I was like, I appreciate it for what it is. It was big
yeah,
action, like a lot of big characters. I had my critiques. I think there was things they couldn't have done different. But if they hadn't kind of started in that direction, then we wouldn't have ended up with the whole like kind of Batman, Superman, Justice League kind of type tie-in with all that. And so it's just the evolution of movies. If we can't kind of let go of some of the ones that we're really connected to personally, then we never really get to experience fully the new cool shit that's coming out. We just kind of get stuck in what we know and love, which is all right too. But I'm a big fan of trying new things, so I'm all here for it. I'm here for this new Superman. I'm stoked.
hey, after watching the previews, man, I was like, oh man, got Crypto on there, the dog. That was dope, man.
All I can think when he whistles and you see that cloud of crypto coming, all I can hear is like the noise that his feet would be making. His paw just It's not, yeah, crypto. I think that'll be super cool. I mean, first time I heard about it, I was like, "There's super dog," and then I was like, "That's right, there is like a super dog," and that got me looking like back up at like what comics crypto was in and like reading a little bit more about crypto. It's like, man, he really did have like a presence through a Superman run. And so now I read comments on some of these posts, people like, oh, that's dog, da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, but it's all part of it in its own way. Like all of these comics have these variations, these takes on these characters, and not all of them
Mhm.
just like it doesn't all follow one take on Superman. They're all kind of some Superman is all bulked up. Some he's just kind of like a normal guy that's super. And so honestly, the normal guy that's super I think plays a little more into people's yearning for that like what if it was me type thing, that relatability of a superhero. So like me is just an everyday guy that doesn't work out. Like I'm not all jacked up. Like I feel like I would look up or relate a lot more to a Christopher Reeves or even David Cornsweet type Superman because they vibe more like me. They just happen to be supers. And so it's like they're a little more relatable to me in that sense, maybe. I don't know.
Hey,
Yeah.
how was it? How was it meeting James Gunn, man? Like seeing him on set. What was that experience like?
At first, it's like there he is, and it's like that with anybody. I remember I worked with Harrison Ford on a movie called 42. It's a Jackie Robinson story with Chadwick Boseman before he was Black
Hmm.
Panther, and he was one that it was like I saw him from a distance. I was like, that's Harrison Ford, and then he opened his mouth and started talking. I was like, that's Indiana Jones, and that's Han Solo, and that's like I get it. And then so like same with Gunn, like you see him from a distance, and then once he starts kind of talking and you and doing his thing, it's like that's it's fucking James Gunn. Like dude's co-CEO of DC now. Like he's a pretty big deal. And I ain't really interacted with him at all on Superman, but on Peacemaker it was like I did that full time, and so it becomes a little bit of a family after it all. And of course he's constantly got people around him. He's constantly like trying to figure out what's next, what he needs, what he doesn't need, all that stuff. So it's not like I got to chat with him too much. We got talking about Thai food one night at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're shooting this scene outside, and I heard him talking about Thai food. And my wife's Thai, and so I was like, you know where there's a really good Thai place? And then him and I just chatted about Thai food for like 5 minutes, and he just incredibly down to earth, nice guy. At least with Peacemaker, maybe it's the vibe of the show. You know, it's a comedy, so there's a lot more just like positive atmosphere. What I've learned over the years is like the comedies, everyone's just in a better mood on set. But if it's really dramatic and a lot of serious stuff, the actors get a lot more serious because they have to like embody that character. And so the tone of set kind of becomes a little more quiet, a little more serious. But this was just like people, everyone was having fun. And what's cool is like constantly hearing James laughing from across the room. Like he's got a distinct voice and like you hear him laughing and he's just constantly laughing, like having a good time. But he knows what he wants. And so when people are like, what about this? Like, are we gonna do this today? And he's like, no, or yes, and he'll like think about it for a second, and then he gives direct answers. I've again, maybe it was the vibe of the show. There was only twice I saw him get kind of upset, and that was all kind of one was the first day we're on a soundstage and people coming in and out, and it was just like the first scene of the first day, and someone walked through the door of the soundstage, and he was like, "What is going on?" Because it was like the third time it happened, and he was clearly annoyed about it. And but honestly, it was like that was outside of that. There's one other time that he got frustrated, but on set, like super positive, down to earth, approachable is kind of the best way I can say it. I showed him a Superman comic that I bought, or it was an adventure comic that I bought at some antique shop one day. We were out shooting, and I was like wandering this antique shop, and I found it. I was getting ready to leave, and he was standing there. I was like, and I ran over. I was like, "You might be able to appreciate this," and I showed him to him. He's like, well, "That's cool." I was like, "Yeah," but he kind of had other people he was talking to. I was like, "All right, I'll leave you alone," and I left. And it was just like, there's no pretentiousness, no like, who is this guy? Like he very, very down to earth is kind of the best way I can put it. And so it got me even more excited about seeing what he has lined up, what he wants to do, because he knows what he wants, and he's just like us in the sense that this is all part of his childhood. He's I don't know, I'd be curious to ask him like what his collection is like. Like, do you have anything that you have gotten over the years that is like just stands out as like, I look at this thing and I get excited, like a signed whatever. Maybe he's got something from Christopher Reeves. Maybe he's got something like that he just cherishes as a part of his personal collection. And so seeing him kind of geek out a little bit over these kind of things, it's like I think about that, like I wonder what's in his collection. Like if he was on
Yeah.
VV, what would he buy?
Oh yeah. Maybe he is.
I don't know, maybe.
Was you a collector before Vivi?
Not really. I'd always been a fan. Of course, anytime X-Men movie came out, I was there. Star Wars, I was there. Like, anytime all that stuff came out, I mean, all that stuff was a staple in my childhood. I remember being mildly traumatized by the episode of X-Men when Magneto pulls the adamantium out of Wolverine.
Yeah.
And so I remember when that cover came out on VV, and like the ultra rare cover for that one is like him up in the air and adamant. And I actually had like, I felt it because I remembered my childhood. Uh, and with respect to VV, I'd been doing a lot of traveling. When I was younger, I owned a place, but I didn't have a ton of space. I didn't have a bunch of like disposable income or anything like that. And I was just kind of into other things. And so I hadn't really gotten much into collecting. And then it was like I'd been traveling around, and when I found VV, I was getting into kind of Web3 and crypto at the same time, kind of late. When was it? November 2021, that Golden Moments drop was the first one I went for. And so it was like I had heard about them, and I heard about that Golden Moments drop, and I had kind of, I understood a little bit what blockchain and NFTs were about. And so I was like, all right, this could be cool. And I kind of tried that. And I was like, oh, I went for a couple of them and it was good. I got the R2. I forget what the second one was that I got. I don't think I landed any more of those Golden Moments. No, I got a Wally on the drop. And I remember watching those prices go up, and I'm sure that was part of it where I was like, ooh, I was like, my what was it, $50 R2D2 is now $4,000. Like, let me see what
Yeah.
else I can. And but that definitely was like the bug that bit me, because I was trying to see like what sets I could complete. I was trying to do all these things, but then I found myself these comics that were being presented to me in Vivi again. Like, I going through and kind of flipping through those, and remember being like, God, I remember like flipping through this comic as a kid. And so that made me want to go and start trying to get physicals, and started looking at estate sales, started looking at auctions. And before I knew it, I had like one of those long boxes just full of comics, and ended up taking a bunch and got them graded. That got me, I ended up getting, I like the drop of Funko Pops. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with them?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because I like the limited edition aspect of it. And so I kind of found that, through the NFT side of things, I appreciated them minting these things. And then the very first one of those I went for, I got one of the Grails. It was Harvey Dent, the Two-Face from The Dark Knight.
oh
And
yeah.
another one that it was like, it bit me, and I was like, these are cool. And I like those in particular because they were specifically limited, and characters that I'd grown up with. Over the years, as the physical side of collecting grew, especially with comics, I started to appreciate Vivi even more, because like I've got two Star Wars number ones. Both of them, when I got them, they were in really good condition. One came back graded, I think, a 7, and one's an 8.5. But when I got them, I was like, I really want to flip through this book, but I don't want to like degrade it at all. And so I immediately
Hmm.
sent them out, got them pressed, got them graded, and now they're slabbed. And it's like, I can't flip through this thing anymore. And so, but that's the beauty of Vivi, because I can like, I'd never own an AF-15, but I got one on Vivi. and I can actually open it up and read the story that's inside that. If I actually owned one, there's no way I'd open that book. Like, that thing would sit in a dark corner somewhere, avoid of UV light and damage and anything, because I'd want to keep it as pristine as possible. And then I'm like I said, it all for me started with blockchain and Web3, crypto, that kind of thing. And so instead of just like the Marvel Unlimited, where you're going and paying $60 a year, I don't know what the subscription is, whatever the subscription is, and you can read any and all of them that are available. I really appreciate the limited edition aspect of it. And so the ultra rare covers I'm a big fan of, because they're exclusive, but also, again, minted on the blockchain. They're tokenized. And so there's that digital asset aspect of it. There's the limited aspect of it, and there's like the ownership aspect. So I feel a lot more like I own that book or that collectible than if I had just a subscription to read these things digitally. And so that's one thing that I think VV stands out a lot, of allowing people to have these variant covers, but also being able to read these books and feel like you own those books, as opposed to just like, oh, I'm a subscriber and can read anything. And so I think good on them for working out the deal with BB Comics and same day drop as Marvel. I think that's really fucking cool, because all the different variants and the ownership aspect of it, people can go get them in the store, but they got to wait even longer for to be able to read them digitally. And with VV, you can read them the same day, but you can also have these, like, I mean, some of those secret rares that they drop are like 40 editions. And it's like,
Yeah.
when people realize that stuff, I made a video. I need to release it. I've been tweaking it. I shared a sign on Peacemaker. I managed to get the entire cast. I never get people to sign stuff, but like I said, everyone was super down to earth, and we had such a good time on that job. I actually, as they were wrapping cast, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to get everyone to sign my hat. And so I had Peacemaker 2, Season 2 crew hat. And I went around, and Danielle Brooks is one. She's done a ton of shit. Super sweet. She was the main one that I really wanted to get to sign it, because her and I had just kind of chatted a few times, and she was just so sweet, and we had fun. So I was like, and she was one that I had really appreciated her work before Peacemaker. And so when she showed up, I'm like, ooh. Uh, and then we got to chat. So I was like, I really wanted to get her to sign it. And then I ended up her, and then the next one. And before I knew it, I had basically the whole cast had signed my Season 2 hat. And on the last day, I managed to get James Gunn to sign it real big on the bottom side of the brim. But anyway, I made a video that I need to release, but I went through. I had to block out the hat, because I realized there was a couple signatures on it that I don't know if it's public knowledge, and I got to tread super lightly on not giving anything away, because the last thing I could really shoot myself in the foot, especially with as big as these shows are, if I said something premature. But I made a video, and so it's taken me a little longer to release. Hopefully I'll release it in the next couple of days, but just talking about all of them. And one of the things I highlight with respect to like limited edition things are the one of one artworks on VV. And I follow Scotty Young Facebook groups, and there are Facebook groups that are solely dedicated to Scotty Young's cover art. I'll bet 80-90% of these people have no idea that he's got essentially kind of concept covers that are one of one. And if you can appreciate the tokenization aspect of it, then like the people that are trying to collect Scotty Young's, I can only assume that they would be incredibly proud to own a one of one cover. Like, if they had a physical one of one, they'd probably lose their shit. And so if you can appreciate the digital asset side of things, like, I feel like they're the same, one and the same. Like, there's a physical one-on-one and it's a digital one-on-one, and someone could always mint the exact same thing later, but you've got the token ID, so you know when the first one was minted, you know, all that stuff. Yeah, I get really excited with these different comics and cover, just like the limited aspect of it. And so I feel like I probably rambled on. Just that all of those aspects just got me hooked with collecting and collecting digitally and then collecting physically, like seeing what I could get, but then seeing the benefits of both and kind of, the downside to both. There is a downside to collecting digitally, but there's also that downside to collecting physically. Where you just run out of
Yeah.
space, or like your kid gets a hold of your prized collection and accidentally like dumps their orange juice in your comic box or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's always that, but someone could always steal your digital collection, I guess, depending on, where you're at and what platforms. And it's just like, yeah, there's definitely positive and negative both. But ultimately, it all kind of started with Vivi and that ownership aspect of it that kind of got me hooked in collecting.
That ownership, you know what I'm saying? Like, it only got 1,000 of them, but it was like 10,000 at one point in time when we first started. But
Mm-hmm.
now, it's like 3,000. And then, like secret
Mm-hmm.
rare, like you say, like 180.
Mm-hmm.
You got one of them, and it's only 80 of them available. Secret rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's big, man. And
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like
Yeah.
when the world get on to digital collecting, we're gonna be here before them. I mean, it's like we here now. I mean, it's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
man. And I've been hooked ever since. Like since 2017, I've been telling people that I know everything is going digital. And if you think about it, Blockbuster don't exist no more. Everybody's streaming movies, Netflix, Hulu, Prime. I feel the same way with comic books.
Yeah, because it's again, there's storage, there's so many different aspects that make it kind of ideal for the future, and especially with future technologies, with AR and VR headsets, glasses. Like if we have a point where we can anchor something back here, so anytime I walk around that room with my AR glasses on, like that artwork's hanging on a wall, those statues are in the corner of the room, and then same with like I think metaverses, Vivi, I don't think Facebook or any of the other companies that have attempted metaverses were necessarily in the wrong because they didn't become the next big thing. I just think they're on the early side of things because the technology is still a little clunky for some of this stuff, and everyone's still getting used to those kind of AR and VR technologies. And then, of course, digital ownership is another thing that I think once people understand, then they'll really start to appreciate these metaverses more because they'll actually have their digital content in there. I'm so excited about the VVverse because there's like entire rooms I'd love to build out with my collection and then be able to invite people and be like, check this shit out. Like, this is the best one I got. Like, and no one else has this one, and that kind of stuff, and be able to walk around, and or even something like with these shows coming out, to be able to put a screen on a wall in one of my home spaces and actually invite people to come hang out, like watch an episode of the show or like watch an episode of Chillin' and Vibin'. Like all of us hang out and like be like, oh, I'm dropping a new episode of Chillin' and Vibin'. Like come hang out in my BVverse space and we'll all hang out together and like we'll talk afterwards, whatever. And I think that mixed with like being able to fill your space with things that you actually own as opposed to other metaverses where it may just or like a Fortnite or I don't actually play any of those, so I don't know how metaverse they feel, but just having the ownership, being able to fill my space with things that I actually own and can be proud of and all, like, and then invite my friends to be like, come check out my collection, just like I would if I had them over at the crib. Like I'd be like, if I had a buddy over that's into it, I'd be like, "Yo, come back here, check out my spare bedroom because I got all my comics and shit on the wall, all my collectibles, all my cool like dorky stuff that I'm into." And I think the VVverse has the potential to kind of be that in the future. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. Like, just imagine, like, when a drop happened, like, you be able to be in the Viewverse and doing a drop with everybody at the same time,
Hmm.
and then you know what I'm saying? Like, you look, hey man, I got chosen, on the drop, so now I can go for it.
Hmm.
And, you know what I'm saying? Granted, some people might not get chosen, but you all in the same room.
Yeah, it's like they do at the cons. Like they, I don't know about the last couple. I haven't actually been to any, but I've just watched them on YouTube of like they're doing drops in their entire room full of people. He got someone on stage basically being like, "All right, everyone get ready." And then you get people that are everyone goes to their phone, and then you get the handful of people through the crowd that are like, "Yeah," really happy because they landed something. And totally, you're right. Like doing that stuff all together in the VV verse and not having to pay however much money to get to one of the cons, or like I got family and work. Like as much as I would love to go, I just can't be there. But if they were like, especially if it like VV hosted events, or you could do something like that and then give things away at the end of it. So do a big drop party for something and then start giving collectibles away afterwards, or just like, I don't know, maybe it's VVverse. Like after a drop, you could continue on with just like music and games and like all this other stuff that would be a lot of fun. Turn it into more than just like a drop event. It'd be like a drop party.
Yeah, yeah, man, and especially just imagine with the Oculus, they connect to that, and you get to put the headset on,
Mhm.
and like you just like right in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's got a lot of potential. A lot of potential. They gotta fucking release it.
Hey, they say it's coming, man. Soon. Hashtag soon.
Fingers fingers crossed. I had in my head January, but then I heard someone say Q1. I was like, maybe I was just being a little too excited with January, but it was also supposed to be January 2 years ago, and so I'm like, just release it. But I think, but Ben Rose, I think he's doing real good and trying to get everything in order. And I think they're moving in a good direction. I think all of the reasons that they haven't done a VV verse yet, I mean, I see the quality of the collectibles, especially with the new app update. I see the evolution of the app. I see the evolution of the web presence. I see the evolution of VV Comics. I see, and people are like, stop dropping so much and focus on this. Stop doing this. Why VV Comics? Why didn't you do a VV verse? And I go to the licensors and I think about Marvel being like, hey, we are considering having somebody do something minting same day comics. Do you think they're going to be like, nah, we don't have time for that. We want to keep these guys happy and make the OMI token worth, get pumped by a bunch of YouTube streamers or whatever. And it's like, no, they're going to see and appreciate the future, where they want the company as a whole to go. And they're going to be like, if I appease this major brand that has drawn in all these different customers and fans, then that's going to take me way farther than any satisfaction now for, and I'm sure they could feel it in reading people's comments. I'm sure they could feel everyone's frustration with what they were doing or what they weren't doing. But for them to, the time that it takes to build out these 3D models and to do all this stuff, and the consistency that they were dropping, the team wasn't very big 2 years ago. And I think that they were one of the companies that were building hard during the bear market. And I think just because we haven't seen a big pump in collectibles prices on the market, and same with the OMI token, doesn't mean that it is a less quality app or less quality product. I think it's just because them pumping the token or pumping the price of the collectibles isn't priority. Them building out a solid, sustainable foundation is. And I think they've done a really good job. I do think they missed a little bit by not being further along in the VV verse, but I also think that the VV verse is going to evolve into not being something that we all go to visit. It's going to be something that we all kind of build ourselves. Like they'll do the infrastructure and collectibles and comics and all that stuff, but we're going to be the ones that are building these like epic spaces, and then being like, let's do this big drop party at my Gotham cave. Let's do this big drop party at my Candyland, or kind of my Mickey Mouse themed land. Let's go race kit cars, like,
Oh yeah.
and building out all of these like really dynamic spaces. And so I try and remind myself that when they do release it, that even if it is just a home space, what we'll be able to do in that home space has so much possibility that before we know it, I don't think it'll take very long and people will be posting their spaces being like, come check it out. And I think there will be some pretty epic builds from people that just blow people away. And everyone's going to want to visit those. And the only thing that's going to draw to any kind of official space is if you're doing drops and giveaways and like really incentivizing people to go to a officially licensed Disney World in the VV verse. Other than that, everyone's just going to build out these really epic spaces, and people are just going to want to go around and see other people's cool shit.
Oh yeah, and I believe, man, I still believe like if VV Comics would have came out during the pandemic, it probably would have shut down all the comic stores. One, you can't go nowhere, so but you got VV
True.
Comics that you can order your comics off of,
Mm-hmm.
and people knowing that they can own it. That would have been
Mm-hmm.
dope.
Yeah. Yeah, because even like I'll go into a shop. It was X-Men 97 when that dropped. I was caught up in other things. I was working that day, so I couldn't have made it to the comic shop anyway. And I got out that Saturday, and of course the main cover was all gone. They had some variant covers, and I got one, but I was still like, man, I wish I had the main cover. But with Vivi, the fact that the variant covers are some of the more rare ones. Like if I get a variant on BB, I'm like, fuck yeah, I got this ultra rare cover and I'm real excited about it. And as opposed to getting to a comic shop and be like, oh, they only have the variant left, because there is that extra limited aspect. It gives me something to be a little more excited about, aside from, the cool imagery and cool artistry.
So what do you think VV could do, you know what I'm saying, in 2025 to bring users in?
I think getting the VV verse out is going to be big because, like I said, people are going to build a lot of cool stuff. And so I think, and the social aspect. And so there will be the popular YouTubers and streamers, or maybe just famous people that'll build a little space and then be like, check out this thing that I did. And anyone can kind of sign up and come and experience this, as opposed to just like talking about NFTs. When people are able to go in and like, especially the quality of these collectibles in app now, and if it's all being built on Unreal Engine, like if somebody's got the proper computer for it and is rendering these things to the top of their quality. I mean, some of the VVverse content that they released, where it was Dan and Corey going through, and they did the Juggernaut with moving the light around.
Oh yeah, that was hard.
That the the car in there, and like being able to, how it reacts and just how shiny and detailed everything is. I think when people can get in and really start showing off those aspects, and I think it'll add so much more to the desirability behind, for people that are just now learning about blockchain technology. Like right now, it's like there's so many people that don't fully appreciate tokenization, that there needs to be a little bit more for a lot of them. And I think people are seeing these like really beautifully done collectibles, and then also being told that you own it, like even if they don't fully understand the ownership aspect of it, when they see just the high quality of these things, and then seeing that they're limited and kind of figuring it out, I think it'll be a lot easier for people who are hesitant to get into the space to be like, maybe I will try this. Like, if somebody's gifted a collectible at a Comic-Con, like, cool, I've got this one collectible, now what? And it's like, and if for me, like I said at the beginning, my art price skyrocketed, and so I was like, let me see what else I can get, let me see what else I can get. But that's not happening now. And so while you might be able to take something you got for free and flip it for $60, $150, that's it. There's not like more. But if they get that and they get into the app, and then they can like kind of build out a home space and kind of see what other people are doing with their collectibles outside of just holding them in this app, I think that'll really help. And then of course it's the exposure, getting people that have those large followings excited about it, and using whatever mojo they did to get these licensors interested and excited to get these big influencers that might not necessarily understand it, but might be kind of considering Web3, might be maybe they're just big collectors. I mean, like, what's going to be more valuable? Like, just me, like, if I'm posting on it, I've got a following of like 500 people versus like if you get like a Kevin Smith, like get Kevin Smith into like collecting on Vivi, and if like somebody of that caliber in the collecting world really is like, wait a second, these things are really fucking cool, and the limited edition aspect of it, and like you can show them to what's going on and appreciate it, and who knows, maybe they do a little bit. I think getting those kind of big names, but I think the VV verse having that underlying thing to do with your collectibles is going to be a big driver, because that'll tie into the social element. Like, again, if you got somebody that's a big name and they can build out a super dope space with all their exclusive mint numbers, and then be like, hey, my 30,000 followers, come check this shit out that I just built. And then they can go around one by one and be like, this is why I bought it, this is why it's super cool, or like really pump their cool shit that they got. Like, I think you got to find people that are excited about collecting and excited about this content that just also happen to have those big fan bases. But people that have those large fan bases a lot of times get caught up in just whatever they're doing. Like, they're constantly trying to create their own content, do their own thing. And so it's real easy for, even if they came across VV at one point, for them to just be like, oh, I can kind of buy NFTs there. But if they're committing, if they're can get interested in the VVverse and building out their own space, then they're committed to another level, because they're like, oh, I can mess with this, and I can actually build out this dynamic space that is 100% my own, filled with things that I own. And then it's like you want them bragging rights. You're not just like, look at this one thing, look at this one thing. Like, come to my space and I'll show you everything that I got. And it's like, look at my number 41 secret rare Miles Morales. I don't know who owns that, but I wish I owned that secret rare Miles Morales. That thing, that's one of my favorites on app. I almost bought, what is it, the ultra rare? I remember seeing that for like 250, and I was like, should I do it? Should I do it? And I decided not to. And then it's like, you can't even get the hoodie one for 250 now. It's like, man, that secret rare, that the quality of that collectible. And again, and like, it was quality of that collectible when it first came out, like that stood out as this just incredibly detailed. The movements were all really good. But now I go back through the app, and like I said, I made this video I need to release, but I go through one of the vaults where I just picked a bunch of random collectibles that I got. I'm just kind of talking about like the different things that are there that they have. And even myself, I'm going through and reappreciating some of these collectibles that I've had for years now, because whatever they did in the last app update, like the collectibles look really good. And so it's amazing, like even the older collectibles look really good in the app. And so the ones that like looked really good when they originally dropped look even better. And it's like ones that may have been a little, you may have seen in the app and not thought that highly of, like when you get into, put them in a showroom and you really get up close to them, you're like, man, the attention to detail on some of these things. The Punisher is one that stands out to me with his jacket, like his eyes moving around and the jacket kind of flowing. And of course, he's one of the more recent ones, so the quality is on par with a lot of the more recent ones. But man, that Punisher, I've got the ultra rare Punisher, and him standing there with his little Uzis or whatever with that mask on, and just his jacket's kind of flowing in the breeze, and it's like, man, like let me have a little party and let me put these guys out on the front door for security, or like I was like, I'm a big fan of the Imperial guards. I think are really cool, but like be able to just like have a space and have like Imperial guards standing out front of my home space in the VVverse, like come on.
Yeah, that would be dope. And I think what we're going to drive the market is the affiliate program.
Yeah, the affiliate program, whatever. I'm not fully aware. I haven't looked into the affiliate program too much. I just remember hearing that they were doing it. So I don't know uh, what people get out of it and stuff like that. But I don't know if like transfers is one of those things for these YouTubers to be able to do their own giveaways and not have to team up with VV officially and have VV do the transfers. Like just to be like, I got 300 of this one thing. I'm giving away 50 today to the first 50 people that come in and just ding, 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 like whatever they can do to allow a little bit of freedom for the creators to be able to get their following, their viewer base excited about it in their own way. I think could
Hmm.
be super important. So maybe that is the affiliate program of just like them being able to just pump up their following and really be able to highlight how cool this stuff is, and then be able to be rewarded for it and incentivized a little bit. And I think hopefully we can get transfers or something similar back to where people can kind of do giveaways, because there's a lot of these guys that just have incredible collections, and if it means giving a handful of things away to really get people excited about VV, I think they'd, in a heartbeat, people would be like, yeah, come on, let's do a big giveaway.
So how's Thailand, man?
Thailand's good. And I'm actually kind of, I don't want to say cold right now, but I'm sitting in the shade a little bit and there's a little breeze blowing. It's now 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's it's great. We've been here less than a week, uh, and we're here for another few days, and then we head out east to some farmland, some rice fields to my wife's family's place, and then we'll head down to the south to the islands for a little bit and hang out down there. Man, the food, we went out last night, got Korean barbecue. I don't know if you
Mm.
have you ever had Korean barbecue?
No, I heard it was good
It's
though.
like where you grill and stuff on a table. Oh my gosh. And this is where I was first introduced to it. And we went out last night with a bunch of friends, and just like 2 hours later, I got home and was just like, how am I still full right now? It was just so good. And it's 15 bucks, I think, is per person is what we paid for it, give or take. 12 to 15 bucks, and just unlimited, all you can eat meat and food and ice cream and all kinds of shit. The food here, street food too, at the same time. That's one thing I get missing a lot, is the street food, and be able to go down to some of these carts and be able to just be like, I want that, and everything's being like, so much is being cooked right there, and everything's just so fresh and well seasoned. And I don't do seafood and I don't do spicy. And people all the time are like, what do you eat in Thailand if you don't eat seafood and you don't eat spicy stuff? And there is so much food that I find to eat that is incredibly delicious. And that's one thing that, after being in the States for a while, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. Even my wife cooks. Like, we eat Thai food all the time, but still, like, there's something different about being at like the street food and like the atmosphere of it all. I love it out here. This is my retirement plan for sure.
Hey, I believe you because when I went to Singapore and they had street food, man, it was good. It was good, and it wasn't expensive. It
Yeah,
was like, I think it was like probably about $8, but it was good.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm enjoying it. Enjoying it a lot.
So, Evan, what advice would you give to a young filmmaker that want to get into the business? What would you tell them?
Don't be afraid to start out at the bottom. A lot of people get ambitious and they're like, I want to be a director, I want to be a DP, I want to be this, I want to be that. And I think it's important to have humble beginnings. And it makes me respect, as somebody that's been doing it for almost 20 years now, I respect the kids that are coming in and working as production assistants, just trying to, like, they're getting a abused in the sense that they're just working our asses off. And it's like, I was there once, and I had the opportunity while I was a production assistant. I would like be a PA with the camera department. I would kind of predominantly on one job kind of hang out and watch the art department or the set decorators or the grips and electrics, and that gave me the ability to kind of hone in on both the job that I wanted myself, but also kind of the personality traits, because each department kind of draws in certain personality types. And so you may be like, I kind of like this, but you might vibe hard with a completely different department and start to appreciate what that department does, and that might pull you in a different direction that you didn't know, but some end up being something that you like just as much, if not more. And so I think being humble enough to start from the bottom, but also be focused enough to seek out the opportunities, always ask questions, but also don't be uh, annoying. So because it's all networking. Like I would never get the next job if the people on my last job didn't like me, or I didn't do something to kind of like show my value. And so just like job to job to job to job, and there's weeks that I've had, gone to bed Sunday night with nothing lined up, but by the time I go to bed the following Sunday, I've worked 3 different commercials that week. And just like people call in last minute, you just kind of eventually build out this network. And so if you do want to be a director, then you can go towards the AD department and really see how a set is run from like the inner workings of scheduling and the whole grand scheme of things. If you want to be a DP, which is a director of photography, you can start as a PA, but really get to know people in the camera department. And like, if you kind of put yourself there and let people know you're interested and be somebody that people don't mind having around, then people like helping other like younger guys move up. And so if you're like, oh man, I love camera, like, hey, what you doing? Like not being in the way, but being curious and wanting to learn and wanting to go kind of that extra step, people see that and people appreciate it, and people want to kind of take you under their wing and kind of show you stuff. Like all the time I see guys showing these younger PAs just like, it'll just really get real curious about what we're doing. And some people are better than others, of course, but they'll like just explaining what we're doing and get into it. And then once you have that know-how and people like you, then next job comes up, hey, let's give Evan a shot. Like he's been wanting to get out, let's bring him out for one. We got an extra man spot, like why not? And then I go out and I bust my ass and they're like, he did good. Like, and then I think of it as a list. Like you might have 8 grips on a set. And so the best boy grip who does all the hiring of that department, like he's got a list in his head of 30 people. I want to try and get in that top 8 spot so that when he's thinking of people to call, he's going to call me somewhere in that window of whether I'm being called as like a main unit full-time guy on a show, or if I'm just being called because this guy got called in sick, and they need a last minute spot to fill, and being able to come in last minute, like being malleable like that, because it is a freelance world, is important to moving up through departments and just kind of turning something that is just like, I don't know. I never thought I'd get into the movie business, and then I kind of discovered it randomly. I felt like, and I enjoyed it. It was like, this is weird, and it's not like a regular 9 to 5, but I vibe with it real hard, and I like it, and it's cool, and it's different. And I was like, just like, let me do more of this, and then I let it take me where it took me. But I had to push. I had to constantly kind of push. I constantly like job after job, make sure people like me, make sure I was getting those phone calls, and if things got slow, making sure I put myself out there in front of people that I worked before, calling people that I haven't worked with in 2 years, being like, hey, it's been real slow, like let me know if you got anything going on, da, da, da. And you might get lucky, and maybe that person just happened to get a series of jobs, and it's like, oh yeah, no, come out, we need a guy, like, and then before you know it, you got 6 months worth of work. And so it's like, I think for new guys, just like be willing to push, and be malleable and be friendly and curious, and then just try and enjoy it. Because people that take it too serious, it's like, you're too much right now. Like, calm down. We're just making movies. We're not doing heart surgery.
Yeah. Well, Evan, man, I appreciate you for coming to chill and vibe. But before we go, let everybody know what we doing.
We chilling and vibing.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for having me, man.